Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, fellow members of the inspiring YPO, Endeavor, and Shara communities, dear friends, first off, a big thank you to YPO for co-hosting today's gathering and to everyone who worked on making this happen. And a special thank you to Amit, Anita, and Jamila. We meet 35 days away from COP28. Over 70,000 participants, including world leaders, business and philanthropy heads, indigenous peoples, and youth, will come together here in our beloved UAE to shape global climate action. We will meet at a time when many global challenges seem insurmountable, when many of the global systems and rules we are supposed to rely on seem incapable of protecting even the most vulnerable and voiceless victims of our time. And as is sadly the case with many of these crises, the trust gap within the climate and nature discourse has been growing. Many across developing regions are fed up with what they perceive to be a green, political, elitist agenda imposed on them by nations responsible for the vast majority of cumulative emissions, ignoring their very human realities. And this widening trust gap means we are way off track in meeting set climate goals, with emissions 50% higher today than they were at the first COP in 1995. Yet, despite these challenges, we also have a tremendous opportunity from here in the UAE to collectively shape a new and vastly improved trajectory for world climate action. A trajectory that is grounded in partnership, in inclusivity, and in humility. Now, some have and continue to question the UAE's credentials in hosting a global gathering of this nature. I won't waste your time addressing the hypocrisy and, in some cases, bigotry behind this divisive commentary, but I will say that I have personally witnessed the unprecedented efforts made by this COP presidency to truly listen to the needs, concerns, and aspirations of every single region of this world, including disenfranchised communities, to ensure an action agenda that leaves no one behind. His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, COP28 President, and his relentless team has spent the last 8 months 24/7 engaging, learning, and rebuilding trust in this process. They've invited everyone to participate in building an action platform that will take us from pledges and declarations to action and implementation. And on a personal note, I've always admired the action-oriented approach that Dr. Sultan has adopted throughout his career. But I have to say, the spirit in which he has embraced this challenge with selfless determination and an unwavering commitment to breaking down silos and repairing trust makes me especially proud to be a member of this community. Thank you, sir. Now, one of the major opportunities that His Excellency Dr. Sultan identified early on to enhance the impact and effectiveness of this COP process is the authentic engagement of the private sector. For too long, the climate narrative has been seen through the prism of activism equals good and capitalism equals bad, which is why Dr. Sultan has called for a new paradigm of actionism, which embraces the dynamism, capital, and action networks that business and philanthropy must bring to the table if we are to stand a chance in achieving nature and climate goals. And these realities are being embraced by the COP28 presidency, fully recognizing that addressing climate mitigation and adaptation is an enormous undertaking, and no single actor will have the capacity or solutions to meet these needs. Which is also why the presidency will host the Business and Philanthropy Climate Forum on the 1st and 2nd of December. This CEO-level forum will break down silos and mobilize global business and philanthropy leaders along with policymakers to unlock solutions and drive bolder results in line with the COP28 action agenda. Forum attendees will look at targeted solutions for accelerating tech transfer, de-risking green investments, enhancing nature capital, boosting green SMEs and startups, and investing in resilience for the most vulnerable. And remember, this is driven by the UAE's ambition to host a truly inclusive conference, which is also why the forum is partnering with the Sustainable Markets Initiative, the OECD, the World Economic Forum, the Asian Development Bank, the African Finance Corporation, the Gates Foundation, and others to make sure of this. Zooming into our own region, the imperative for action is even more compelling. The Middle East is highly exposed to the effects of climate change. Our natural water scarcity, coupled with temperatures rising at twice the global average, foreshadow an increase in drought and extreme weather events that can impact hundreds of millions of lives. Thanks to plans like the UAE Green Agenda and Net Zero by 2050 strategy, governments have now pledged to bring 60% of MENA's emissions under the Net Zero ambition. However, businesses have yet to follow suit. 12% have set up net zero targets and 6% have established roadmaps to net zero, according to a recent World Economic Forum report. But things are starting to get exciting. Green and sustainable finance in MENA more than quadrupled in 1 year to well over $20 billion last year. Many more family businesses, which, as you know, generate the vast majority of non-oil regional GDP, are embarking on sustainability journeys. A PwC survey reveals that well over half surveyed have adapted their business models towards green goals, and over 2/3 of next gens say that they plan to lead the way in sustainable business practices. Our region is also the fastest growing region when it comes to green energy capacity growth, surging 400% in the past year alone. The UAE has committed to invest over $160 billion in clean energy in the coming years, keeping in mind that Abu Dhabi's Masdar is already the largest single renewable energy investor in the world. We also see encouraging activity within our startup community. In a report Crescent Enterprises recently commissioned, we've seen an 11-fold increase in venture funding towards green tech over the past 5 years, with 144 new green tech startups enabled by $650 million in venture funding. So these trends represent a huge opportunity, and my belief is that the more we debunk the myth that the greener something is, the less profitable it is, the more capital we're going to see flow to this opportunity. Now, my dear wife, Razan, often reminds me that I talk too much about things I'm passionate about. And whilst I'm doing my very best to avoid eye contact with her, I can feel her staring me down, which means that it's time for me to wrap up. So I'll just leave you with this. With the COP28 presidency placing business center stage, let us use this incredible platform to raise our ambitions, create our own green agenda that is underpinned by social and economic progress, and catalyze the change we need to see for the sake of our businesses, our society, and our planet. Thank you all for your support.